From the capital city of Charleston, West Virginia, this is Inside West Virginia Politics with Mark Curtis.
We need to continue to look and see if there is a solution to that in terms of the banking issue. But this bill is not that solution, and it's not on the governor's call, so we could not constitutionally have taken it up.
We have issues that are not being taken up, and the governor is essentially obstructing our medical cannabis bill that we have bipartisan support for, and it's a shame that it's not on the call this session.
And good Sunday morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Inside West Virginia Politics. I'm your host, Mark Curtis. We're talking about medical marijuana in West Virginia this week, or the lack of medical marijuana. Joining me right now is Rusty Williams. He is a member of the Medical Cannabis Advisory Board here in the state of West Virginia. Rusty, welcome back to Inside West Virginia Politics. We're going to get into the reasons in a minute why medical marijuana is stalled in the Mountain State. It's a banking issue, and someone from the Treasurer's Office will join us shortly. But first of all, tell me your frustration. You're a patient. You're the patient advocate on the Medical Marijuana Advisory Board. What's your frustration at this point that this law is not anywhere close to implementation by next July 1st?
Well, my frustrations, I share the same frustrations as most patients in West Virginia. You know, there are 29 other states that are doing this, and it's a little frustrating to me that West Virginia we're having so many problems getting the program up and running. We're going to have patients that could possibly end up dead before this program actually gets up and running. So, you know, I share the same concerns with every other patient that's reaching out to me. Now,
this was passed by the legislature, signed by the governor approximately 18 months ago. It had to have some lead time to get all the I's dotted and T's crossed and give growers the time to grow the marijuana that would be used for medical cannabis. Is there still time to do this and make it happen by July 1st, or are we past?
No, we're past. I'm not sure exactly how far the program has been pushed back, but it's definitely been pushed back, in my estimation, at least a year.
Has the Medical Cannabis Advisory Board, you guys were meeting for a while, you're meeting once a month at various locations around the state. When was the last time you guys met, and when's the next meeting?
Well, the last meeting was before last legislative session. We weren't tasked to make our recommendations until the 2019 legislative session, but everyone on the board felt like it was prudent to do that before we were actually tasked. So we did it early. We made our recommendations last legislative session, and they were pretty much ignored.
At this point, without getting into the nitty-gritty of the banking issue, would you like to see Governor Justice call a special legislative session and get this dealt with now before we get into the 2019 session in January?
Absolutely. You know, coming from a patient's point of view, we've got people out here that are suffering, that really need this medication, and the sooner we can get it in their hands, the better off they're going to be.
The reason you're the patient advocate on the advisory board, you were a cancer patient, and you used marijuana to treat. I mean, how important was it to you, given the fact that you had cancer and you had trouble with chemotherapy like so many do?
You know, I don't think I would be sitting here having this interview had I not made the decision to illegally use medical cannabis. I personally don't see how anybody gets through aggressive chemo without it. It truly saved my life, and that's why I've dedicated whatever time I have left here to making sure that every patient that finds themselves in the position that I was in has access to the medicine that saved me.
And you've shared some very personal stories with me before. How did it directly help you? You were having talk about your troubles with chemo, and then when you switched to marijuana, what the difference was.
Yeah, my second day of chemo, first day wasn't too bad. I was able to come home and have a meal with my family and go to sleep, you know, on a normal schedule. But the second day of chemo, I had no idea what I was in store for. The nausea and the vertigo, I thought I knew what it meant to be dizzy. I had no idea. The vertigo would be so bad that you couldn't open your eyes. I mean, as soon as you open your eyes, you just want to vomit on the floor. And within 30 seconds of one hit of black market cannabis, the nausea stopped. Vertigo stopped. And I was able to eat, function like a normal person.
You are not just an advocate of medical marijuana. You would like to see recreational pass in the state like it has in Colorado and some other states. Why is that, and how does that connect to funding PEIA, according to your platform?
Well, to me, cannabis prohibition has always been a civil rights issue. Now, I'm all about patient rights, and I want patients to have access to what they need, but this goes broader than that. Anybody with Google in 5 minutes time can look and see that the roots of cannabis prohibition are deeply seated in racist soil, and even now those racist policies are still being perpetuated. We have 30 states that are medically legal, 21 states are decriminalized, and 9 states are fully legal, and minority arrests are still going up.
We've got 30 seconds. How would this fund PEIA?
Well, we're spending $17 million annually on law enforcement for nonviolent cannabis offenses, so we would save $17 to $20 million instantly from that, and then we see a 12% reduction in overall pharmaceutical utilization that could result in a $33 million savings for PEIA recipients. So
we're going to let our viewers know we're going to have an opposing view later in the show in fairness and have some balance to our discussion. But we want to thank Rusty Williams from the West Virginia Medical Cannabis Advisory Board. Check back in with us. It's an ongoing issue, and there will be more developments. We'll have you back, Rusty.
Thank you, sir.